All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. All right, looks like the slides are showing up okay, so that's great. I'm gonna let in one more registrant. Perfect. All right, welcome everyone to the November information session for the Master of Science in Addiction and Policy Practice program. We're really excited to have you here today and to have a very special guest alum with us as well. Since we have a smaller crowd today, as we do our program introductions, we'll also pass it off to you so we can get to know all of you a little bit better. So let's get started. First of all, today, as I mentioned, we're going to introduce ourselves, our kind of respective roles within the Addiction Policy or MS-ADPP program. We will look into the program itself, what makes this degree a little bit unique, as you probably already noticed from a number of programs across the country dealing with recovery and addiction. We'll talk about career opportunities, mentorship, and other opportunities we offer in the career sphere. I'll go into the admissions overview, what to expect when submitting your application to the program, and finally, we'll leave plenty of time for all of your questions at the end. So first of all, I'll introduce the core staff of the program. My name is Jennifer Jansen, or Jenny Jansen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the program coordinator for the MS in Addiction Policy and Practice. What that means is I help support students from application to graduation through recruitment and admissions work, academic advising, and other various programmatic needs. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about overall program logistics or application logistics. From there, I will pass it off to our program director, Professor Regina LaBelle.
Hi there, thanks for joining us. I'm Regina LaBelle. I'm the program director, and I'm also a professor in the program. I teach the integrative seminar and as well as the capstone, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Adam Myers.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Adam Myers, longtime faculty member at the Medical Center at Georgetown University, heavily involved in a variety of graduate programs. And as I reach, let's say, toward the end of my career, I've focused my efforts on a couple of these graduate programs that I thought were socially important and kind of interesting for me to get involved in at this point in my personal journey with Georgetown. And the Addiction Policy and Practice is one of those. I believe in the program. I've been in a part of it since the beginning. My role is kind of limited to administration, and in particular academic administration, also admissions. I'm going to have to get off this call fairly soon. I just wanted to say this now, that if any of you are interested or have questions about the applicability of this degree to a career that might move into further graduate studies, perhaps a PhD program, or if you're specifically interested in biomedical sciences or medicine, you're welcome to contact me. I'd love to talk to you and go over, what the implications of that are. And I'm gonna ask Jenny, if she hasn't already, to put my email in the chat. Feel free to contact me, and you might hear from me about a couple other things along the way. For example, some of you might be interested in taking a course to prepare for the ADPP program if you have no specific experience in a couple of areas that we think are important, like neuroscience. So welcome, glad to communicate with you further as the opportunities arise.
All right, wonderful. Chad, if you have a moment, I'd love for you to introduce yourself too. No worries, if you want to pass it off to students on the call first.
Hey, everybody. My name is Chad Jackson. I was part of the second cohort for this program, and I am currently I'm looking at two screens. I am the chairman of the DC Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission. We're the group that is mandated to recommend spending on opioid settlement funds for the District of Columbia. And they don't ask me when they want to have a meeting. They tell me for these steering committee meetings, and that's kind of how it goes. And I am a person in long-term recovery. The reason I got into this program and was had a lot to do with the fact that I have a personal interest in these issues. For me, I haven't had a drink or a drug since March 14th, 2014. I have a sober living house for women in the District of Columbia, and I have a background in treatment from inpatient and intensive outpatient programs. And like I said, I graduated a couple of years ago in the second cohort.
Great. Thank you so much, Chad. He's a busy guy, so we're really lucky we could have him on today. For now, I will pass it back to Professor LaBelle to talk a little bit more about the faculty in the program.
Thanks. So since we have a small group, we can be pretty informal. If questions arise as we're going through the slides, let us know. So we have gathered a really impressive team of professors who are not only distinguished in the field, they come from a variety of backgrounds and experiences, many of whom have lived experience. Dr. Amanda Lattimore teaches social epidemiology and addiction. She's teaching that right now. She previously worked for American Institutes for Research and the city of Baltimore, and just has extensive experience in the issue. Brandon Del Pozo is with Brown University. He teaches comparative approaches to addiction policy in the second summer of the class. His background is really unique. He has a PhD, is a researcher, and also was a detective with the New York Police Department and was chief of police in Burlington, Vermont. Wilson Compton is the deputy director of the National Institute on Drugs of Abuse at the National Institutes of Health. He teaches throughout the year, beginning in the fall and the spring. He is an addiction psychiatrist and does the Foundations of Addiction Psychiatry 1 and 2. Next slide, please. And then Dr. Emily Einstein is with the American Society of Addiction Medicine. She teaches neurobiology, which is a class that students have right now. Chris Jones is a national leader, policy leader who worked at SAMHSA, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, as well as the CDC. He has published extensivly. He teaches two classes, Data and Statistics of Drug Policy, which kind of bookend the program in the first summer and the second summer. And then Talid El-Sabawy is with Wayne State, and she is a professor there. She also is affiliated with the center where we work at Georgetown. She teaches a foundational course in the first summer, U.S. addiction policy. And then finally, we have two additional professors, Shelley Weissman, who you just mentioned, you met. She is in Kentucky, she's in Louisville, and she teaches mental health and addiction law and policy. And finally, Beth Connolly teaches healthcare finance. That's in the first summer, and that class is really about the fundamentals of how we fund the continuum of care for substance use disorder. So, we started this program in 2021. Chad was in our second class, and the reason we started it was I had spent many years in government. I served as legal counsel in the mayor of Seattle for 8 years. I also served in the Obama administration for 8 years, and then in the Biden administration for a year at the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. And I found throughout that time that we were developing addiction policies not based in science and evidence, and that still happens today. But what we wanted to do was really invest in our addiction policy field so that the people that are being hired at the state level, at the local level, in the federal government are not learning on the job and can really begin to implement the science and evidence So people don't just understand what should be done, but they also understand how it should be done. Next slide, please. So we'll talk about, next slide, please. We'll talk a little bit about the program itself. So it's 1 year. That was intentional. It's an intense year. You know, students begin remotely in summer 1 and then complete summer 2. So it's, you know, it's a full 12 months, 30 credits. And there's 1 elective class that students can take. There are full and part-time options. Students don't have to, the part-time option, most students complete it in 2 years. We've had several, at least 3 students. Right now we have 4 students who are part-time. We've had 2 who have already graduated from the program. And, you know, it is a unique program, and we keep emphasizing that because there's a lot of clinical programs, but this is the one program where you're going to learn, again, not just what should be done, but how to get it done. And we have a reduced rate for our tuition for the program. This is not the tuition rate for next fall, but we do have a reduced tuition rate going forward. So this is a standard schedule. So again, you begin virtually with healthcare finance, addiction policy, data analysis, and then in the fall, neurobiology, the integrative seminar, which I teach. You know, I'll give you an example of the classes that we have. So tomorrow, it's every Friday afternoon. Tomorrow it's on family and child welfare. And we have someone who has worked on Capitol Hill, in child welfare issues for a number of years. And what we're doing is examining the U.S. approach to how we address people who might use substances during pregnancy, as well as children who are impacted by parental substance use. What does the science and evidence show about how we address that issue? In some cases, it exacerbates conditions, and what can be done about that. So we really challenge the students to think more, not just about what it is now, but how can we change things. And then, you know, Dr. Compton's class, addiction psychiatry, and finally, social epidemiology. In the spring, that's when Professor Weissman teaches addiction, mental health law, and policy. We have the integrative seminar again, Foundation of Addiction Psychiatry, and you get a policy elective. Summer 2 is comparative approaches. That's Brandon Del Pozo, data analysis, and finally a capstone. The capstone is a topic of the students choosing, and it's a culmination of all the work you've done over the year. And I just ask students to do something you're really passionate about. And the students have done incredible work, many of the papers they've written, the policy projects that they've developed have been accepted at conferences in addiction policy around the country. Next slide, please. And then this is the sample part-time schedule. It can be changed, revised, depending upon your schedule, but this is what we suggest because classes build upon one another. It's not 3 years, it's really, you know, this is the number of semesters, but it's year 3 because you kind of overlap with the new incoming class. So our students work in a variety of fields, and you know, from the American Society of Addiction Medicine, American Medical Association. We've had students work at the DC Department of Behavioral Health. The picture here is Ben Freifeld, who works with the Maryland Department of Opioid Response. He was in our first class, and he's continuing to work in that position. We've had folks like Chad serve on the Trump transition team, and when he's finished up with his current gig right now, he will talk a little bit about his career path as well. We've also had folks work at the Office of National Drug Control Policy, and others have gone on to med school and law school. In the fall, so right now, I'm connecting our students with mentors, career mentors. And so I ask the students, I wait until October so I can get to know the students a little bit better. There's a real hunger in our addiction policy field for people to, to follow behind and make sure that we're not just, keeping all this knowledge to ourselves. So the mentorship program is really important to helping the students meet people in the addiction policy field so that when you get out, you're not starting to think about your career when you leave. You're thinking about it all throughout the program. And again, the students are being connected right now with mentors, and Chad, when he's off, can talk a little bit about his mentor experience as well. Next slide, please. Our students are very engaged both on campus and in our community, in the DC community, but also nationally. So students have, it was our students who started the recovery community on campus, Hoyas for Recovery. And we've had panels where we featured the students. The picture in the middle is of students who we're on we had a mobilized recovery program in October on campus, and students talked about their experience both as undergraduates but also as graduate students in Hoyas for Recovery. They've taken part in walks for recovery, other events, distributing naloxone, drug checking kits around the community, and also our students attend national conferences like the RX Summit that's held annually. This year it'll be in Tennessee next year, and several of our students will be there as well. So it's just, we really, the mentors get people involved, but also our alumni, we want that connective tissue between all of our students and faculty as well. This addiction policy field is not very big, and we want to make it bigger. And so this program is really part of that, making it bigger and more effective.
Absolutely. I just actually talked to the Hoyas for Recovery co-presidents today, who are actually the two of the panelists in the kind of center image there. That was a collegiate recovery group that was founded by MS ADPP students out of what they felt like was a kind of missing need in the Georgetown collegiate community. And they just had a Friendsgiving at Chad's Sober Living House, and that seemed to be a really great event. So we're always kind of having our students and alumni get together, which is a real pleasure. Right, now I'm going to take over for a bit to talk a little bit about the admissions side of the program, what to expect when submitting your application, and kind of common questions that come up when people are submitting. First of all, here is a application checklist. Feel free to screenshot or take a picture if that's helpful for you, but all of this is also on our website as well in case you ever need to reference it. When submitting an application, you're going to do so online through the graduate portal, which is gradapply.georgetown.edu. You'll need to submit an application fee. However, this is waived before January 15th. So if you are planning on working on that in between the holidays and get that in by January 15th, 2026, you do not have to pay an application fee. Next up is a statement of purpose. This is 500 words approximately, where you discuss your academic journey, what brought you to apply to the program, and what you hope to get out of it. We also really do strongly urge you to fill out the optional statement. This is an additional opportunity for you to expand on your personal background, anything you feel like wasn't already kind of accurately represented in your application thus far. And also you can talk about your experiences and how they contribute to your interest in this field. It's a great way to show that you'll be an active contributor in our community, which is something we really value as a kind of action-oriented program. And we do really welcome any opportunity to get to know you more through our application because we do keep our cohorts intentionally kind of small and focused. Next up, we require your resume or curriculum vitae and 2 letters of recommendation. If you are early in your education, say currently completing a degree, we would love to have at least one recommendation from an academic you've worked with, such as a professor. However, we do have students and applicants who are long out of school, so we will accept one or both letters from a trusted professional, like someone you've worked with. Another good thing to know there is we will accept the names and emails of recommenders by that priority deadline and the regular deadline, even if they have not uploaded their letters yet. So you do not need to have recommendation letters in hand, so to speak, to submit your application and have it registered as submitted by us. In a similar vein, as soon as it's available, we'll need a official transcript that confirms you have completed your undergraduate study. However, we do not require official transcripts upon submission. Unofficial ones are fine by that date, and you'll see on our website some common forms that students submit those in and what we can kind of accept through the university to review. We do ask that your transcripts reflect all of your undergraduate study, including transfer credits. And finally, if you attended a school where English was not the primary language of instruction, you will need to show a demonstration of English language proficiency via the TOEFL or IELTS tests. You will see on that bottom right blue box there the minimum scores for each test that we accept to be considered eligible for admission to the program. And you'll also see on that upper box that we do not require a GRE test to be submitted. So, going off of eligibility criteria, applicants to the program need the following 3 things. First, an applicant must hold a bachelor's degree or equivalent from an accredited institution. This should be equivalent to 4 years of undergraduate study in the United States, which, if you are coming from outside of the States, you can often verify with something like a WES evaluation. Next up, of course, we are a very involved community and we really get excited about making change in this field. So we want to see demonstrated interest in addiction policy. Interest in public policy, social science, healthcare, community service, recovery, all of that's strongly preferred. And consideration will also be given, of course, to individuals with lived experience. Finally, the Office of Graduate Studies at Georgetown requires a minimum grade point average of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. With this in mind, however, I do want to draw your attention to that bottom blue box there because we conduct a holistic review of applications. This is something we're especially aware of given the nature of the subject matter in our program. We have had successful students come straight from undergraduate study, we've had successful students from career transitions, and we've had many successful students currently in long-term recovery. With our small size and our mission-driven program, we know that not everyone has the same professional or academic journey. With all that being said, if you are concerned about any of these eligibility requirements, we do encourage you to reach out to us via our email, addictionpolicy@georgetown.edu, or me directly, because if we feel like you are an otherwise compelling applicant, but you are concerned about one or more of these criteria, we have been able in the past to make successful appeals to the Office of Graduate Studies for admission. Next up are the application deadlines for the program. The first one, as I mentioned, is January 15th of 2026. By this date, the application fee is waived. This is our priority deadline for that reason. We will still review applications on a rolling basis after this period, however, until our final deadline of April 1st. There's an application fee of $90 after that January 15th date. And for both deadlines, you would start at the same time. Classes begin for the next cohort in approximately July of 2026. Finally, I'll talk a little bit about financial aid, and then we'll go back to Chad to chat a little bit about his experience in the program. First of all, as Professor LaBelle mentioned, the tuition for the next academic year has not been confirmed yet by Georgetown, but it is increased on average 4% each year. So that's a good way to kind of calculate if you want to estimate your costs for the program. Last year's rate was $1,747 per credit, and again, this was a reduced discounted tuition rate, which is an agreement we negotiated with the Office of Graduate Studies for our program. Because of that, we do not offer additional internal scholarships. However, there are some other opportunities for financing inside and outside of the university. The majority of students finance their degrees through multiple sources, such as employment benefits, fellowships, scholarships. If you'll be working during your time in the program, we do recommend that you reach out to your employer and see if you're eligible for tuition benefits. We also recommend searching for additional sources of funding early. A good amount of scholarship deadlines for the following year are around this period. You can look at applications like ProFellow and Scholarships 360 to search, as well as the Graduate External Fellowships and Scholarships page, which is on the Office of Graduate Studies website. The Office of Student Financial Aid also has more information on deadlines and tips for applying to external scholarships. If you are eligible for Veterans Affairs benefits, make sure to contact the GU Veterans Service for more information on starting that application process. You can also make appointments with them on their website to chat a little bit about your options. If you are a domestic applicant, we also really recommend you fill out the free application for Federal Student Aid or FAFSA, which typically opens in the winter. This is free and available for graduate students, and if you fill it out, you could be found eligible for federal low-interest student loans or potentially be awarded federal work study, which allows you to apply to federal work study positions that are designated as such on campus. Another good thing to note, though, is you can also apply for part-time positions even if you don't have work study status. You're allowed to work up to 20 hours a week at Georgetown University while also studying there. And typically, grad school position rates are a little bit higher than the minimum wage. For example, DC minimum wage is $17.95 unless it's a tipped worker. And the positions are typically around $20 to $23 an hour for graduate students on Georgetown campuses. So, good thing to know. As soon as students are enrolled and have submitted their enrollment deposit, they're eligible to begin through the GMS or Workday portal to start applying for positions across Georgetown University and see what's out there. The Graduate Career Center also offers a number of resources to find and apply to external scholarships and fellowships, as well as support, of course, for matriculated students applying to jobs and seeing what's out there. Finally, the Georgetown Office of Revenue and Receivables offers monthly installment payment plans for tuition as opposed to the semesterly charges through their office. So you can sign up through the normal billing portal for Georgetown. Another thing to note here, while this doesn't apply to tuition, is our program does have some limited funding to help students afford other programmatic fees, including textbooks, although we try to make sure we have more kind of open source text whenever possible, and also conferences. We've been able to be fortunate enough to send a few students to conferences this year, and we look forward to doing more next year. So that's another good thing to when you're thinking about kind of additional career networking opportunities and support within the program. All right. Before we go to Q&A, I'd love to pass it to Chad to talk a little bit more about his experience in the program. Feel free to highlight a favorite class if you remember one, a little bit about your kind of career path, pre and post ADPP, or even if you want to give another shout out to Hoyas for Recovery.
Well, absolutely. Hoyas for Recovery is very important to me. We started that with a couple of other people in my cohort. I'm very proud to have started a program at Georgetown that provides a safe place for people in recovery. And I look forward to and am working to help that grow and solidify. It's difficult in a one-year program to do some of those things, and I'm very proud of all the support we've gotten from the university and from Regina and all of these things. So I feel like it's vitally important for the program, and I stay involved with it. I have a sober living house, so I had a place for us to do some Thanksgiving and had a lot of people attend. And I'm a local, so the great thing about this, I stay in contact with every cohort really. I don't know everybody in this cohort maybe as well as the last one, but they're about halfway through, and I love to stay involved. What else? Go ahead, Brigida.
maybe mention what you did about the mentor.
Oh yeah. I am a mentor. In the current cohort, one of the students was looking for to know a little bit more about it, and we had conversations every week. We set up a regular conversation about coming into DC and being part of the program, and and he's thriving. He's got a fellowship. He's part of DC GradGov, or the GradGov at Georgetown. And I'm happy to help prepare and set up for what expectations are, and how you can get things done. Um, I like to stay involved. And I like to stay busy. So, um, as far as a favorite program, that's tough. Obviously, Regina's program was my favorite. Uh, the class was the most broadly based. Regina um, has brought in a lot of people that I stay in contact with. I have lunch with and coffee with a lot of the speakers that she brought in to talk to us uh, every week, have remained close to me, and have made strong relationships with a lot of those people. This course has a very important set of criteria, and it gets you to a place to understand the policy world in this perspective. But it also is networking, and it also gives you a inroad into a very small, very passionate community that's making changes. And it took me 6 months after I got out of the program to realize how thoroughly I understood some of the broad spectrum of issues with substance use disorder. Having a substance use disorder gave me a perspective. Working in the treatment facilities gave me a perspective, but those two things were completely separate from what I learned in the program. They applied, and I could dovetail those things together, but understanding the policy, something that isn't done on the treatment side of things. Everybody in treatment or almost everybody in treatment is working so hard to maintain the level of treatment and the work that's going on in their systems, that they're not looking at the policy things. And being able to go into those groups that I have a natural affinity to, and talk about how policy works, and where these things are, how they got here, and where they're going, helps me to bring some synergy into a community that I care about. I think that this is a challenging program. The neurobiology is, you got to have some, you got to learn some science. We got to hold a human brain when I was there, which was pretty neat. And but all of the professors are, it's an extremely impressive group of people, and I count all of them as friends now. So I strongly recommend this program. Of course, I wouldn't be here talking about it if I didn't. They probably wouldn't have invited me to do this. So I would love to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Chad. Yeah, at this point, everyone can feel free to go off of mute to ask a question, type in the chat if they're more comfortable. Any of that works. Yeah, any of us are happy to answer any questions about all the different kind of aspects of the program or the application process. All right, well, if anything else comes up, I'll put up our contact cards now so you know how to find us in the future. Really feel free to reach out to us anytime, anyone on the call here. I know there's been a few emails shared in the chat. If you have any questions about the application process, the program itself, where people have ended up after the program, we can also get you in touch with alumni like Chad to talk a little bit more about the program, especially if you're interested in an alum with a specific experience, say like taking the program part-time. We also can meet you on campus to chat a little bit and give tours and have you sit in on classes. So those are all options as well. Feel free to reach out if you're interested. You can reach out to our email, addictionpolicy@georgetown.edu. I recommend following our LinkedIn and our Instagram to see kind of what our students are up to in real time. We've had a lot of really great student publications and accolades recently that I love to shout out. You can also contact us via our program phone, 202-687-6575. And yeah, we really look forward to seeing your applications, learning more about you, and staying in touch.
Yeah, feel free to contact me. I put my cell phone and email on there. I'm happy to talk.
Okay, thank you guys. It's been a
Thanks
great
very
session.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Take care.
Of
Bye-bye.
course.
Peace.
Bye.
Great day, everyone.